Nurse dormitory. This was when I was still in Japan, so it was about 10 years ago. The dormitory has already been torn down, and many years have passed, so I put it in writing. I still clearly remember every detail of those days. This is the only time in my life that I have experienced something like this. I don't want to experience it again. I was 23 years old at the time. At the time, I was a freelancer, playing until I ran out of money, and when I ran out of money, I took a part-time job. One day, however, it was the season for new students to enter school and start their careers. I wondered if I could continue to live like this. I decided to seek a stable income as a full-time employee. Luckily, an acquaintance introduced me to the president of a food company, who treated me well, and through his connections, I was able to get a job. He immediately asked me to start working for him next month. However, it is impossible to commute by car from my current apartment due to the heavy morning traffic on the 7th Ring Road. I didn't really like trains, so I decided to rent an apartment near my office. However, I couldn't find a good apartment. That is because the company is located in a rather nice place in the center of the city, and even a dirty apartment costs 90,000 yen for rent. I could not pay that much. I happened to have a chance to have a conversation with the president of the company where I was employed, and at that time, I discussed the commuting time in the apartment with him. Then the president said, "There is an old former nurses' dormitory on the site of our factory's planned expansion near your workplace, so you can live there for 4 months until it is torn down. The first floor is being used for storage, but the second floor can be used for housing. There is electricity and water on the first floor, so we will be able to make do." I was happy to accept the free rent and the fact that I could park my car there. The best part is that no matter how much noise I make, I am the only one living there. There is no one to complain. I can invite my friends and have a party. And I immediately went there the next day. It looks like an old and desolate facility from the outside, tucked away in a large compound. The cracks spreading across the walls give a sense of age. The nurses probably wouldn't want to live there. I thought to myself, it's pretty clean inside. However, it was dusty, indicating that the company was not using it as a warehouse, but just for storage. The building was made in such a way that it must have been a public facility before it was used as a dormitory. Thinking that there was no gas in the house, so there was no way to take a bath, and that each room had a small kitchen, so there was no need to clean the dining room, I quickly went upstairs to check out the rooms. There were 25 rooms. The hallways and the interior of each room are all beautiful. I chose a corner room on the front street side. It was sunny and had new tatami mats and walls. I left that day after cleaning the room I had chosen, the corridor on the second floor, and the stairs. My apartment was still under contract, but I wanted to move out right away, so I contacted a couple of friends who were free and promised to help me move out tomorrow, and I got under the covers. However, I could not sleep at all. I had been suffering from ringing in my ears and a headache I had never experienced before all night. The next day, my friends did not show up at the appointed time. About an hour past the appointed time, I got a call, and it was from a friend. It was from the hospital. He told me that late last night, while driving with another person who would be here today, he got sick and couldn't concentrate on driving and crashed into a wall. He said his injuries were not serious, but he was so upset that he could no longer help us move that he did not notice the initial change. The only large pieces of furniture were a bed and a chest of drawers, so I disassembled everything and put it in the car by myself. My car was a wagon, but it was already 5 p.m. when I managed to move the furniture and other items by myself in 4 round trips. After that, I carried my belongings into my room and assembled the furniture, etc. When the move was completed for the time being, I had already reached the limit of my physical strength because I had not slept yesterday. I lay down and fell into a deep sleep without eating. How many hours had passed since then? Late at night, I am in pain and cannot breathe. Feels as if something heavy is on top of my body. I feel sluggish and can't move. It must be because I am tired. Thinking that I was mentally and physically exhausted from the move, I fell into a deep sleep again. Then morning came and I decided to think that the pain still in my chest was muscle pain from the heavy furniture. That night, after dinner and a shower at a friend's house, I arrived at my dorm late at night. But there was an eeriness that was hard to describe. It was as if another world had opened up behind the thick sliding glass door at the front entrance. My reflection in that glass seemed to be trapped in that world. However, I had my own room on the second floor and there was nothing to do but to stay outside, so I pushed forward and climbed the stairs to the front of my room. For some reason, I was too scared to open the door to my room. Normally, I would feel more scared standing alone in an empty hallway. After all, nothing happened when I went into my room. I went to bed thinking that from tomorrow I would leave the lights on in the entrance and hallway. After a while, it was the same as yesterday again. I woke up with the sensation of something pressing on my chest. It was also regularly alternating between above and below my chest. What's more, unlike yesterday, I hear what sounds like a low moan from somewhere. Even if I don't open my eyes, I know for sure that someone is in the room. I am too scared to open my eyes. I can't even turn my head to the side. The only answer is the sound and direction I hear from my ears and the weight of something transmitted from my chest. The sound is clearly human voices. Two people, two. One is reading a sutra. The other is talking to himself, inaudible clearly. The weight on my chest is the direction of the voices and the movement of the two people, alternately moving up and down, side by side, and sitting on top of me. As soon as I reached this conclusion, the weight became heavier and heavier, and I involuntarily opened my eyes. The one there was a woman with long hair who was sitting upright on her side on my chest. Then I saw an old woman moving toward the ceiling and floating. They stared at me as if they had noticed that I had opened my eyes. I was so horrified by the sight of them that I decided not to open my eyes again. I had no choice but to bear the weight of it. As soon as they were gone, I fell asleep, too tired. Or perhaps it would be more accurate to say that I fainted. The next morning I woke up normally, as if last night had never happened. However, there was still pain in my chest, and when I rolled up my shirt to check, there were 4 bruises left across it. Seeing that brought me right back to reality. I ran outside without thinking, taking only my wallet, car keys, and jacket with me. There was no one in my circle of friends who had ever had this kind of experience, so there was no one I could talk to about it, and before that, I had to ask myself, is this really real? My old friends got together and, out of curiosity, we all decided to stay in my room that night. There were 8 of us, including me. We all drank and talked about ghost stories, and before I knew it I was asleep and it was morning. I heard that everyone went to bed around 3 o'clock. Nothing happened to them either. I was afraid to stay here alone, so I left with everyone else. I discussed the night with one of my friends and we came to the conclusion that I was tired, that I had suffered during the night, and that my imagination had created an illusion. Then they agreed to stay in the room with us tonight. We drank in the room and eventually we both fell asleep. I woke up in the middle of the night feeling suffocated. It was the same as that night. I immediately tried to wake my friend who was sleeping next to me, but it was already too late and I couldn't move. I heard the voices again and soon found myself on my chest. But tonight was a little different. I was alone. I could tell by her voice that she was a woman with long hair. My friend was sleeping next to me and I wasn't as terrified as I was last time. I opened my eyes and stared back at the woman staring at me. I looked over at my friend lying next to me and saw the old woman moving up and down on him. My friend's eyes were closed but his face was drawn with fear. In the morning, My friend woke me up and immediately told me to leave this place with a very pale face. However, I looked around the room because I was wondering why only here the wallpaper and tatami mats were new. My friend seemed to be afraid to go out into the hallway alone. First of all, there was no sign of furniture on the tatami. This room is a corner room and has a lot of sunlight, so there is no way it should be vacant. Would the tatami be replaced with new ones when the relocation was to take place? I might have been in a mild neurosis at that time. Immediately, with the help of a friend, I took the furniture out into the hallway and removed all the tatami mats. The concrete floor was clean. But only the center was wiped circularly. Only there, obviously by human hands. If you look closely at the center of the circle, you can see that there was something black there. I could see that there was something black in the center. It must be blood. I immediately ran out of there and never went back. After that, I gave the keys to the movers and had them remove my belongings only. I refused to get a job because of the aftertaste. I never entered the property. I don't want to know what happened there in the past, nor am I interested in knowing. This is the end of this story. Thank you for listening to the end.